Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. Today, of course, we're going to be playing 3rd Age Reforged, and we're going to take another saunter into the wild world of patch 0.97, our upcoming patch for the mod. Today, I'm going to show you two opposing playstyles. One is going to be a Rhudaur army commanded by Angstfitz, who, by the way, is in this replay, so big thank you to Angstfitz for supporting the channel. And the other army across the field from him is going to be the forces of IMLADRIS, who focus more on fielding heavily armored and heavily skilled units of infantry and cavalry, whereas Rhudaur have they've got a bit more of a numbers approach, but they also have some nasty close-range punch, thanks to their javelin throwers and their axe throwers as well. And they also focus a lot more on their numbers with very, very low defense values. So quality versus quantity in the most acute demonstration of those two virtues that I could possibly show you. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the army comps, then we can jump into the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. Angstfitz's army consists of at least one unit here of the Dumbman Spearmen, who are going to be defending his 2 units of Rhudaur Marksmen. He's also brought a Phalanx as well. It's a very layered approach here, as you can see. I don't think Angstfitz has quite finished assembling his force yet. But his Phalanx front line is going to consist of Rhudaur Swordsmen, along with the deadly Herenidine Pikemen. He's also got some hidden units of axe throwers here in his center, a unit of Herenidine Rangers, at least one unit of the Troll Hunters. I think there's 2. Might be 2. Maybe it's just the 1 unit of the Troll Hunters today. He's also got 2 to 3 units of the Rhudaur Clansmen. One of them has an armor upgrade. You can see them right there. Also got some Coldfell Maidens, some nice Javelin units there. Herenidine Nobles, and Ferodrum Javelins, who, unlike their current iteration, which I think is limited to 2, and a little bit underwhelming in melee, the Ferodrum Javelins in 0.97 will be limited to 1, but the unit itself will be far improved. Ooh, a little bit of lag. More Rhudaur Clansmen, another unit here of the Coldfell Maidens, and I think to top off the whole deadly cake, we've got some Herenidine Nobles here. Spiky and scary, much like the Rhudaur army generally. So there's a lot of units here that can cause serious damage very, very quickly, and those kind of shock tactics where you just try to win a battle through sheer attrition by whittling it down the elves' numbers before they can really bring their skill and their damage to bear in melee, is a viable way to beat IMLADRIS. IMLADRIS is quite weak to that sort of thing, as their armies tend to be the smallest of all of the Elven armies, so it'll be interesting to see if Angstfitz can pull this off. But in any case, let's go ahead and see what IMLADRIS is bringing to the field today. Across the field from Rhudaur, of course, we have the IMLADRIS army, and they're going to be played by RH King of Sparta, one of our newer testers. He has brought Roaming Lords of Rivendell, which is a name that we are not necessarily attached to, so before anybody in the comment section bites my face off, yes, we know, some people don't like some of the names, some of them are a little bit long. We're working on alternatives. But in any case, a lot of lower tier units here, which is nice to see. Swords of Rivendell forming his front line. I think there's about 3 or 4 units all in loose formation there. A good idea against the Javelin and Throwing Axe heavy armies of Rhudaur. Actually have a little bit of a skirmish presence here in the field today. Mostly I've seen IMLADRIS over the last while played as a rush faction. But it's nice to see 2 units of Noriternal Warriors and 1 company of the Archers of IMLADRIS. And then, much like Rhudaur, there's going to be a main Phalanx line, which is going to hold down the center. Got 1 unit here of the IMLADRIS Sentries, some IMLADRIS Guardians, at least 3 units maybe of the IMLADRIS Guardians, Eldarinway Archers, 1 company of the Eldarinway Hadruma Kill, and then to form the final line, we have the Doomsmen of Varda. Actually, I think I might have missed 1 cavalry unit. We've got some Eldarinway Standard Bearers over here. So if you look at the difference between the 2 armies, the Elves are significantly smaller. Men of Rhudaur have much larger units, much larger army in general, so it'll be interesting to see if they can pull this off. But now, without any further ado, let's jump into the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. And so a battle with IMLADRIS begins with a lot of skirmishing, which is different. Certainly a refreshing sight to see. And the Elves definitely have an advantage, at least in the initial stages, over their Rhudaur counterparts. As you can see, the Rhudaur marksmen are getting absolutely butchered by the superior Elven accuracy and damage. Angstfitz is going to do his best to try and whittle these units down. You can see that he's got himself into a nice big old line, which is going to drastically reduce the amount of damage that those Elves are able to do and increase the amount of ammunition they need to expend in order to accomplish their goal of wiping out his skirmishers. That being said, we are not very far into this battle, and these Rhudaur marksmen are down to, yeah, a very very small portion of their strength from previously. I think they have about 160 men in the unit, and now they're down to about half strength very, very quickly. So the Elven focus fire from 3 separate units, it's paying off. And these Rhudaur marksmen, if they're drawn back at like 60, 70 men, they can certainly still be a threat and still play a role throughout the game. But if they're reduced down into their 20s, then there's not really a whole lot that unit can really accomplish in support of the rest of the army. So this is a tough situation for Ingsfit to be in. I've definitely seen him employ similar tactics with Rhudaur before, and the idea is to try and wear down your opponent with sheer numbers. But obviously against the elves at range, that's not going to work. Now the elves in IMLADRIS are not quite as deadly as some of their counterparts in Lorien and more especially Mirkwood, but their archers are a lot better in melee. They've got a little bit less ammo on average than some of the other Elven archers, but when they get into close quarters, that is where they excel, because that is what IMLADRIS' specialty is. So once they manage to do critical damage to these Rhudaur marksmen, then they can use these guys as a front line, as a first wave to maybe try and soak up some of the incoming hand-thrown missile fire that we're inevitably going to see from Ingsfits. Now, a lot of these units are actually hidden, but I don't believe for a second the King of Sparta doesn't know that they're there, or suspect at the very least that there are some hidden units on the side of Rhudaur. But in any case, got some Coldfell Maidens here moving forward, and they're going to draw back as soon as those Elder Runaway Standard Bearers kick into action. It's a bit of a feint on the part of Ingsfits. Elder Runaway Standard Bearers is going to take a hail of javelin volleys from behind. One of them is going to fall, and the Coldfell Maidens are going to pirouette away, harmless, unharmed, I should say, as most of the Elven archers were a little bit occupied trying to shoot down the Rhudaur forces. It seems as though they've turned their attention to the front lines of Rhudaur, which is not a bad idea. IMLADRIS definitely has the advantage in terms of the infantry fight. They do have less pikes, which could be a problem, but with a little bit of savvy maneuvering, any advantage that the pikes do confer to the Rhudaur army can be circumvented quite literally, both literally and figuratively, if the IMLADRIS forces choose simply to go around the phalanx and attack it from the flanks and the rear. Then it's in a lot of trouble. I find in a lot of the games that breaking the wings is the best way to beat a phalanx. Over here in the center we have the roaming lords of Rivendell, who have launched a frontal charge into the Dunman Spearmen. It hurt. Dunman Spearmen definitely took that on the chin and came off worse for wear. Roaming lords of Rivendell, I think, took about 3 or 4 casualties in the retreat, and now an extra one. Altogether, though, they're not doing so bad. They definitely want to stay away from the Coldfell Maidens. Coldfell Maidens excel at preying on a unit like the roaming lords of Rivendell. Let's see how we're doing over here. More Coldfell Maidens being brought forward to potentially menace some of these Elven units, but honestly, the high melee defense of these elves is going to protect them quite well from the Coldfell Maidens if Ingsfits decided to commit to a frontal charge. But instead, it's going to be another feint. He's going to draw back with his Coldfell Maidens. We're going to hurl their javelins all the while and bring down some of the Elder Runaway, bring down a significantly higher number of the Norityrno warriors. And still the skirmishing continues. If we look at the difference here, it is quite sizable. 5% to 12% in favor of the elves. The skirmish fight has definitely gone all their way. But it's not going to be the end of this. No, no, no. You're going to need more than archers to win this battle. What do we got here? Elder Runaway Standard Bearers being very bold. Oh, but flying too close to the sun. Getting shot down by some of the troll hunters on the second line. They're going to get a piece of those Rhudaur marksmen, and it's going to hurt, but I don't know if I would trade the lives of 2/5 of my combat strength off an Elder Runaway Standard Bearer unit for just a handful of marksmen. Definitely not a trade that's in favor of the elves. That being said, things generally seem to be swinging in favor of IMLADRIS. King of Sparta has been very aggressive with his cavalry so far, to fairly mixed effect. He's done great with the skirmishers. He's really wiped out a large portion of the Rhudaur front line, or the first wave, I should say, not exactly their front line. And now he's focusing his attention on trying to cut down as many of these units from range as he possibly can. And the damage is mounting. 10% difference here in favor of IMLADRIS. That's big. The IMLADRIS player's got to be feeling confident at this point. He's done a great job at winning this skirmish fight. He's still got some resources here to be a little bit irritating at range. Got his first wave out of ammunition and ready to engage in close quarters. Let's see what he does. See how he proceeds from here. If he is going to win this, I think he's not going to want to take them head on. He could definitely do so with his front line, use them as holding units, use his Quendi as flankers, maybe even use the IMLADRIS Guardians to stiffen his center. But he's definitely going to want to flank with certain units like the Harumakil, and more importantly, the IMLADRIS Sentries. The way that they are placed right now, if he moves forward with both the North Warriors and the skirmishing front line, and his IMLADRIS Guardians, flanks with the Swords of Rhudaur in support of the IMLADRIS, both the IMLADRIS Sentries and the Harumakil, and uses his cavalry well to try and defend his wings and keep the Rhudaur cavalry busy. This is a fight that I think IMLADRIS is fully capable of winning despite the numbers disparity. It's just going to come down to sound tactics. Let's go ahead and turn it up a little bit here as the IMLADRIS army begins to approach that of Rhudaur. Let's see how he decides to approach this. What do we have over here? Roaming Lords of Rivendell getting chased out of position by the Coldfell Maidens. It seems like they claim the lives of some of the elves here. Oh, no, that's actually a dead Coldfell Maiden. What do we have here? The Elder Standard Bearers. This is, I think, a fruitless assault. I think this unit is far better used in support of the infantry push, which is where I believe this battle is going to be won or lost. And what are they really doing? They're charging into clansmen and getting pinned against pikes. Like, this was not an effective use of a very expensive and potentially game-changing unit. So our first major mistake from IMLADRIS so far has been to throw away a unit of Elder Standard Bearers who are almost at about half strength. Like, that was a unit that could have made a difference. And now the infantry push begins. This is just the order of events here is all wrong. These units should have been brought in first, and then the cavalry used to support his wings. Let's see what we do now. And there goes the last of the standard bearers. They've been cut down. Over here, the roaming lords of Rivendell. Looks like they were charging into some of the marksmen. I don't know why the Rivendell player has such an obsession with those marksmen. They ended up running themselves into some clansmen, and now I think that unit is... yeah, it is annihilated. We might not see them back again. Questionable. And now we've seen the skirmishing front line begin to engage. And Inkspets is going to oblige with a sally forward with his Rhudaur swordsman, but I don't think this is the right move for the IMLADRIS themselves either. They will definitely beat the swordsman, and they are currently in the process of doing so. But I think using the Sword Quendi alternately to support the front line push here of the skirmishing forces, and also to try and wrap around the wings here of the Rhudaur formation while using his guardians to stiffen the center and pushing with his heavy-hitting shock unit of the Harumakil, and of course far superior pikes to those of Rhudaur. This is an interesting move here as well. He's opted to try and support the center of both of his pushes, whereas I would have supported the center of whichever wing needed it the most, and that probably looked like it was going to be the left wing. And then try and push up through the center with a unit of Guardians, where the Rhudaur forces are reasonably exposed. There was an opportunity here, given how thin the line was, to maybe bisect the Rhudaur armies and crush them by enveloping them. Now, of course, there are some problems with that. There is a secondary skirmishing line for Rhudaur, but I think that's the call that I would have made in this situation. And especially if he was pushing on the wings, then the second line of skirmishers would definitely have their hands full. They can't focus all the targets at once. There's simply not enough of them. What we have here, Coldfell Maidens charging into the Elder Enemy Archers, suffering a countercharge from the Harumakil. It's going to take more than Maidens to bring down the Elder Enemy, the veterans of the IMLADRIS army. I think Inkspets knows this, so he's going to draw back quickly with his Coldfell Maidens. And over here we have the Doomsmen of Barda shadowing their retreat. If they charge in here, they could finish this unit once and for good. Look at that, it's shaken already. What we got here? But instead, the Doomsmen seem to be charging through the Rhudaur clansmen. I can understand what he's doing here. This is a big flanking movement. He wants to take a bite out of it. And you know, he also needs to get behind the Rhudaur line and start to launch some hammer and anvil attacks if he's going to win this. But It's just not worth it. Doomsmen of Varda are going to take a lot of damage trying to push through there. Cold Wildmaidens are, of course, Spear Cavalry. And then what do we have here? Seems like the Doomsmen are going to bypass a very juicy target here in the form of the Rangers. And instead try and get immediately in behind the Rhudaur army. It's a tough call to make. I personally would have gone for damage against the Rangers and then ping-ponged into the rear of this this wing here. And all the while, the Doomsmen of Varda are going to be suffering volley after volley from the mid-range skirmishing forces. Rhudaur Javelins are in a great position to deal some serious pain to Doomsmen of Varda. Looks like they're going to be going after one of the Trollshot Axe Thrower units. That's going to hurt. Ooh, and those lances go down. They're going to charge all across the line there. A very, very nice charge. It's going to be the end for the Trollshot Axe Throwers. It looks like the back lines here of Imladris are what's the word I'm looking for? Compromised. Using the Elder Enemy Haru Masil to try and defend his archers instead of using them to shut down this this flanking movement here. And now his left wing is going to be completely enveloped just as the Elves of Imladris were starting to break through the defense. And what do we have over here? Doomsmen of Varda charging into the Renanine pikemen. Now, normally I don't recommend charging your cavalry into pikes, but this to me looks like a calculated risk on the part of King of Sparta. If he managed to break the Renanine pikemen, who were on the verge of giving up, then he would have freed up a lot of resources here, would have been able to push straight on through the center, maybe even move against some of the skirmishing units in the back, or move to surround the Rhudaur units in the center, and just continue routing the Rhudaur infantry all along the line where they're being soundly defeated in most places by the IMLADRIS infantry, except for the left wing over here of IMLADRIS, where they've managed to completely surround the Elves. This is tough. On the back here, Coldfell Maidens going for another charge against the Elder Enemy Archers. Renanine Nobles doing their thing. Ooh, got a nice charge there against the Harumakil. Harumakil can stand up to that pretty well with their high melee defense values, however. And what do we got here? A Hammer and Anvil attack against the seemingly unstoppable Elven right wing. Rhudaur has thrown a lot over here to try and hold the Elves up, and it's just not worked out for them. Countercharge here by the Elder Enway. That's going to be ugly. Coldfell Maidens not liking the situation that they are in. Angsvitz is going to want to get them out of there as quickly as possible. We're on the verge of routing. They're going to come back from it, though, and manage to escape this time. And leave several of their sisters dead on the battlefield. Let's see what happened back here. It seems like the rest of the Doomsmen of Varda... Oh, no, not all of them, in fact. 12 of them are going to try and chase down 22 Renanine Nobles. And that might free up some resources here. The Elder Enemy Harumakil now going to be able to be committed to the right wing. I would have gone for the left wing. Honestly, Harumakil would butcher their way through many of these clansmen. They might not win, but they would do very, very well for themselves. What do we got here? Elder Enemy Archers. Take some more pot shots at the Renanine Nobles. Doomsmen of Varda have decided to turn around and do I don't know what. I would have kept these guys in reserve to try and defend my Elder Enemy Archer so that I could use my Harumakil to great effect. Or maybe even ward off some rear charges into my Harumakil by the Renanine Nobles. I think there's been a lot of questionable decisions from the Elves so far, which are leading to this fight turning around. I mean, we saw how far ahead the Elves were initially, but now they are being beaten back. Despite a solid victory so far on the right wing, the Elves are starting to lose this fight. Oh man, the poor Harumakil. Taking it on the chin there. I think that was the Rhudaur Javelins. Tossed a volley in here. And now they're down to half strength. They haven't even been committed to the fight. I don't understand the hesitation here. This is not very smart play. And initially the Elves really seemed like they knew what they were doing. But keeping the Harumakil especially back and not trying to flank this phalanx, I think that's going to lead to the downfall of the Elves in this case. But let's go ahead, kick it into full speed, and we'll see what happens. So Rhudaur has annihilated the Elven right wing, and those are losses that Imladris cannot sustain. Coldfell Maidens get another charge here into the Elder Enemy Archers, but we can see just how tough these veterans are. They're going to beat back yet another charge. Her Knight Noble's going to try a different tack. Maybe come in from the rear here against the IMLADRIS Guardians. That would be a smart decision. Big charge here as the right wing. A wave of troops from the right wing advances against the IMLADRIS Elves. Even so, however, they will cut their way through this. And just look at the pressure that they're under, but they are still fighting hard here. Ooh, that's disastrous. The Elven General just got himself cut down. Looks like by a combination of Her Knight Nobles and the very reduced unit of Maidens. I think that's game over for the Elven Cavalry. What we have here, I don't know how this happened, but the Elder Enemy Archer is beginning to break. Over here, the Elves are doing their best, but they're being showered with hand-thrown projectiles. We're going to see a mass rout here of the rest of the IMLADRIS. That was a tough one. 64 to 90, a very crushing victory in favor of Rhudaur, and I think there was a lot of reasons that we very clearly saw as for why that was. The Rhudaur front line was not pressured the way that it could have been. That could have been a desperate fight for survival, but instead it was just kind of a bit of a back and forth. I think that IMLADRIS had the potential to win this fight. As I said earlier in the battle, actually near the beginning, IMLADRIS could have done this. They didn't choose their targets very well for their cavalry, for one. They lost 2 units of cavalry early on that they could have used to support their wings and to pressure the Rhudaur front line and ultimately make them collapse. And I think that was probably the beginning and the end for them there. After that, they had to keep, well, at least they felt like they needed to keep their Haruma back. I probably wouldn't have. I would have gone all in at that point. But yeah, they had, or at least they felt they had to do that because they didn't have the support anymore, and that just came from I think the careless use of their cavalry. So probably their biggest mistake was the way that they lost their cavalry and their willingness to throw them at spear units. There was, with the Her Knight pikes in the center, I can understand that. It was a calculated risk with the Doomsmen of Varda. If they had routed those pikes off, this game, again, could have gone differently, or it could have been a lot closer. But yeah, the cavalry on the wings and the way they just seemed to carelessly throw away their lives, that didn't need to happen. Throwing their cavalry into wave after wave of spearmen, or senselessly going after small depleted units of archers that aren't really a threat to IMLADRIS infantry to begin with, it was not a very good use of the resources, and ultimately it caused their downfall. So yeah, it was a good game, and I think King of Sparta didn't do poorly at all. I mean, he killed off a good deal of the Rhudaur army. At the very least, over half of it. But yeah, there were some serious mistakes there that he made that ultimately led to his downfall. That doesn't mean he's a bad player by any means, so be nice down in the comment section. Everybody makes mistakes. I certainly do all the time. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of things that he could have done better. Ingsfitz, on the other hand, did very well. Especially with his use of feinting as well to try and get like little bites out of important units. The Roaming Lords of Rivendell really took a lot of damage from the Maidens early on. Even managed to get a nice piece of the Elder Enemy Standard Bearers as well, and in a few cases, I think he managed to soften up the Doomsmen of Varda as well with some of his skirmish fire. So, really great job on the part of Ingsfitz. He played that pretty well, exactly as you would want to, and he was aided a little bit by some of the mistakes in deployment that his enemy made. So, great game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.